Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, boy, do we have an interesting show lined up for today. We've got licensed clinical social worker, family law specialist, and mediator Bill Eddy joining us to talk about his brand new book. Hit the bookshelves yesterday, so this is very exciting. It's called 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life, Identifying and Dealing with Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Other High-Conflict Personalities.
Wow.
I know. Don't mess with Bill.
I know. Be careful.
No, actually,
this
it's
is fascinating.
It's fascinating. I like it because he teaches you how to identify these kind of people, and I swear all of us have met high-conflict people.
Sure.
At work, colleagues, it could be a romantic relationship, it could be family members, but also how to deal with them. Which was kind of a different thought pattern than what I had, you know.
Well,
normally I call the cops on people.
I know.
I do. Well, sometimes you have to.
That's someone's way of dealing with things. But normally these kinds of books get pretty in-depth and scientific-wise, and they're hard to read. And then they don't really ever give you solutions or a way of identifying and then how to act when you come up against
for something really serious like this.
Yeah, and so I really found it valuable. I wish I had it about 30-something years ago.
Well, he uses people's examples, and that's what I like, because then you can identify with those situations, you know, so it's like the stories really help, and he gives you, like, this is how you handle this type, you know. He's got.
Well, and I would have handled some of the things I've done a lot differently had I read this.
Me too. I never even thought about a book like this. So, and he's a co-founder of the High Conflict Institute. I didn't know we needed an institute.
There was. Well, I think we do.
I think we do. Look at what's going on. He said there's over 35 million high conflict people walking around in this country.
Wow, what if you put them all together like at the Super Bowl?
And more.
Look at that.
I know, and more are coming on board. I wonder, I look at all the shootings in the country, so I'm very excited to talk with him. And then, following 3 acclaimed CDs with his group, Burnt Belief, John Durant is joining us. He is back with his first solo album since 2011's Dance of the Shadow Planets. So he's going to talk about Parting Is. It's a completely solo guitar album. It is so unique. You know, it's like this beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt, it just flows. It's like this journey. It's an instrumental, beautiful album. I feel like I'm in, like the coast, like with forests, Gold's Bluff Beach, like Northern California area.
Yeah.
I feel very much in that neighborhood listening to this, just really like in nature. And all the instrumentation is all these different kinds of guitars and guitar work and types of loops. And
he does it all himself.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like cloud guitar. And then he's got loops and all these melodies.
Cool.
It's just absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him. And then Forbes contributing writer Elaine Pofelt talks about the solo entrepreneurial insights in her book, The $1 Million One-Person Business, Make Great Money, Work the Way You Like, Have the Life You Want. There is such a rise of solo entrepreneurs in this country. And often overlooked. When you think of small business, you're always thinking about 5 to 10 to 20 people, maybe 100, 200 people in a business.
Right.
These are people that are running very lean companies and being successful with it, and it's about working smart, not hard, so that you can enjoy your life. That old thing about work hard, you need to work 20 hours a day, it's kind of different now because of what we have with technology and other contractors out there. So, companies that can work and outsource, and it's just amazing. And it's such a fantastic book. Anybody looking to open a company, a business, a lot of people have side businesses just for tax purposes. Or, and sometimes you want to follow your passion. I know a lot of musicians, for example, who have, a business and music so they can do purely what they want.
Right.
It's about creating the life you want, and it's just absolutely fantastic. So looking forward to that. But happy Hump Day, everybody. It is February 7th, 2018. You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Happy Hour Variety Show. We're streaming live from a sunny Tucson, Arizona. There's no such thing as winter here. And we're your hosts, Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the mother-daughter travel team and publishers of 2 digital interactive publications. We have Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. That's our variety publication. It covers everything from food and wine to travel, family, parenting, cooking, gardening, nature, history, music, art.
You name it, we got it.
It's all in business. It's all in there. And the other one is Parks and Travel Magazine, which is exactly its title. And you can get that at nationalparktraveling.com. The new February-March issue is out now. And, of course, the other one is blendradioandtv.com. And you know what? Today is National Send a Card to a Friend Day. I think that's super cool. Getting some, actual paper cards and handwriting, I don't know if any of us know how to do that anymore, but I think that it's a really good communication tool. It's non-conflictive, so I think we should all do that a little bit more.
Usually you don't make typos.
Yeah, it's like call up an old friend,
right.
People just can't read my writing anymore. But all right, so let's get our first guest on and get this show started. Stay tuned. So how many of us have gone to work and we have the coworker or colleague that's always got drama going in their life or creates drama around you or tries to do it with you, or maybe it's like someone in your family that's we could tell some stories on that.
Yeah, we could.
There's the people who blame everybody but themselves. Do we all know someone like that?
That's convenient.
Yep, and then there's the people that sweep you off your feet,
Ooh.
only to not be that person. I've been through that.
Yes, you have.
Yes, and then it's a big wake-up call. But anyway, these people are all known as high conflict personalities, and apparently there's over 35 million of them in our country, in America, and they come in contact with all of us. And they can really mess with our life, our business, our careers, our relationships, and it's just not fun to be around. It's stressful, and who needs more of that? High drama is not a thing I like.
It's
unless it's hiking
like
a mountain.
The person, we have that saying that this person brings out the worst in me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is who a high conflict person is.
That's if you allow them to.
Yeah, somebody who makes you turn into someone you try not to be.
Well, and they can also get quite violent. So we have licensed clinical social worker, family law specialist, and mediator Bill Eddy joining us on Big Blend Radio's Happy Hour show today. That's right. We always want a social worker and a mediator and a law specialist to come on a Happy Hour show. But he's going to talk about the insight in his newly released book, excellent book. It's called 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life, Identifying and Dealing with Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Other High Conflict Personalities. You can get it on Amazon now. Also go to his website, highconflictinstitute.com, because that's right, he's a co-founder and president of High Conflict Institute in San Diego, and I didn't even know we needed one, but apparently we do, especially when you read his book. Welcome, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now that I know what's in the book, it's a lot easier to live my life, but I'm glad to be on and excited to share this information with you and your listeners.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on the release of your book. And I never thought of grouping these kinds of personalities and people we deal with into the title of high conflict personalities. I never thought I'd be reading a book that labels it as such and deals with this and tells you truly how to maneuver and work around these personalities. But I also didn't know that a whole institute would be dedicated to this. What led you to opening an institute and then writing the book as well?
Well, the Institute's 10 years old as of last month, and I basically, because I've been working as a therapist, as a lawyer, and as a mediator, dealing with people's conflicts all day long, and I started seeing patterns and started seeing, I'm helping people get out of high conflict relationships at work and divorces with their neighbors, and I should really write a book about how to not get into those situations. So around the same time we started High Conflict Institute giving seminars, I started teaching and writing about this problem, which has only grown in the last 10 years. So I think this is something that a couple of generations ago didn't have to deal with so much. But nowadays we all really need to know who are high conflict people and how can we either deal with them or kind of ease them out of our lives.
Mm. Can you explain, just give a quick overview of a high conflict personality, and also tell us why this is on the rise?
Okay. Well, first of all, think of four key characteristics. People with high conflict personalities have a pattern of blaming other people, which means they don't take responsibility themselves. It's always somebody else's fault. They have a lot of all or nothing thinking, like it's all your fault or it's my way or the highway, those types of things. They often have unmanaged emotions. So they may start yelling or run out of a room in the middle of a conversation. The emotions kind of take over. And sometimes they apologize and sometimes they don't. They say, I was right to do that. And lastly is they engage in behavior that's extreme. And in many cases, they do things that 90% of people would never do. So that's always a question to ask. But it's those four key characteristics: blaming, all or nothing thinking, unmanaged emotions, and extreme behaviors. So that's what we're seeing. Now, your second question was, why are we seeing more of this? So personality development, because I've worked with, as a mental health professional with young children and parents, et cetera, is personality development's really got three parts. It's got what you're born with, kind of your genetic tendencies. Then mostly your early childhood makes a big difference because your personality is mostly developing by 5 or 6 years old. So those first few years mean a lot. But the third is what our culture is. And I would suggest that our culture is what's changed the most in the last 10, 20, 30 years. And that part of our culture is seeing images of high conflict behavior over and over and over again. If you look at how much time children spend, about 7 hours a day now watching screens, and some adults spend 8 hours a day watching screens. So part of that might be Facebook on your cell phone, but part of that's watching movies, watching the TV news, all of that. And what we're seeing today is the most extreme behavior, because all these methods are competing for our attention, and to grab our attention, they have to show stuff that's extreme. So for adults, what we're seeing is this rise of high conflict entertainment, but for kids, it's training. And so that's part of their personality development. So we're seeing that seeming to be on the rise.
Right now, when you look at how our country is divided because of the political atmosphere we're all living through, you can't help but wonder that, when children are seeing, just even the news has become kind of, I'm trying to find the right word. It's just angry. That children, if they see this, they think this is the way to behave, because if adults are behaving that way, that is what they think they should behave like as well.
Yeah, not just on the news. It's in Facebook. It's parents talking with other parents or arguing amongst families.
Yeah, it's really what we've done in many ways is simplified complex problems and relationships into all good and all bad people. And so that all or nothing view, people are blaming each other, when in many cases the problem might be something everybody contributes to at least a little bit. And frankly, I don't think we're as polarized as the media tells us, but I do think we are polarized. But my neighbors and my relatives, we get along. But you hear about people, hating each other because of their point of view, and we can't keep hearing that without it getting us to think, wow, we really have to watch out for those evil people out there.
Yeah, it builds something. I was going to ask about, because in the book you talk about absolutely how to kind of control the situation when you're dealing with a high conflict personality, an HCP, and you have a great method for us to all learn how to do this. But when you talk about some of these people can become violent, there's suicide, and I look at suicide rates we're actually doing a segment on this coming up this month about teenager suicide rates escalating, especially because of social media. And one of the high conflict personalities you talk about is like suicide is directly related. I look at that, the numbers of that going up, and also these violent incidences we're having around this, not just in this country, it is in other countries too, but all these shootings where people just kind of do this snap. We've had that personally in our family, where my uncle Nancy's brother was murdered because the employee just snapped when my uncle let him go, and he turned around and killed everybody and just shot him all in the back. It was the split decision, and later we found out that he did have some mental health issues, but they weren't checked out when my uncle hired him, but he just snapped. And I wonder about people not recognizing those signs of people just snapping, and how much stress and all of this stuff that's going on, suicides, shootings, stress levels, people just acting out. Are these all HCPs?
Well, I think many of them are, and I want to say something right now, and that is they're not evil people, they're not bad people, and in fact, no one chooses to have a high conflict personality. People with high conflict personalities often are depressed and anxious and frustrated because they haven't learned the skills of balance and how to get along with other people. So they take things too personally. They overreact. They can't manage their own emotions. So part of what we see with suicide and with these mass shootings is these aren't ordinary people. And that's important to know. It isn't like an ordinary person suddenly changes like that, unless there's some kind of physical illness in their brain or something like that. But for most people, it's people who struggled all their lives, and they might have done it a week before or a week later, or maybe not at all. It's just there's like this balance. And I've worked a lot with kids and parents, and suicidal teenagers in many ways just don't have the skills yet. And a lot of us that work in mental health call suicide a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And if you can just get the teen or whoever it is to just get through today and learn some new skills, then they may not be able to, they may not have this problem. There's so many people who have had suicidal thoughts in their lifetime that never committed suicide or hurt anybody else. And it's really a lack of skills, but it's something to pay attention to. If someone talks that way, and that's one thing I mentioned in the book, is pay attention to people's words. If they talk like things are hopeless, or so-and-so doesn't deserve to live, or everything's wrong with me. Those are signs, those all or nothing signs to watch out for. So I agree with you that this is increasing with suicide, but I think it's not the average person who has average skills. It's someone who's stuck, may have, and we don't say that teenagers have personality disorders. They're too young to be that stuck. But they may have warning signs. So they may have all or nothing thinking. You know, let me just briefly say something about teenagers. The 5 types of high conflict people include narcissists, sociopaths, borderline, paranoid, and histrionic. But when you're talking about teenagers, on any given day, you're looking at narcissistic, sociopathic, borderline, paranoid, and histrionic. So it's the pattern that's stuck. That's the issue. But if you see warning signs, it's good to give people attention and see if they could use some help.
So how much of this is, you mentioned that you're born with some of these tendencies. You know, it's like, okay, is it really in your DNA? And if it is it something that you can actually change?
Well, it seems to be that it's on kind of a continuum. So for some people, this may be most of who they are, and especially sociopaths, people who often are criminal population, but con artists, sometimes they're business people on Wall Street. But sociopaths are one of the personalities that seems to be more inborn than the others. But with that said, I believe that all people have some ability to be influenced by their environment, especially early childhood. So if you have a sociopathic child, but you give them a really good upbringing, they might not get into legal trouble. They may not hurt anybody, even if they lie more than the average person, and maybe they steal some things. So environment does make a difference. I also want to say, even as adults, people are on a continuum with this. So some people are going to probably be next to impossible to change, but other people may be able to change some. And I think it's worth encouraging people. You might want to get some counseling for that. You may want to, maybe there's some meds to help you feel less stressed, because high conflict people are super stressed all the time because it doesn't work for them, what they're doing. I don't want to say all the time, because sometimes you can't tell that under the surface they're stressed, but on the surface they do okay, maybe for weeks or months, but then it eventually shows up. But I want to say that it is possible for people to change if they want to change. That's the biggest factor. If somebody wants to change, they have self-awareness and they say, I want to change how I'm doing things, that's a really good sign.
So do you think it's kind of like addiction, where you need help, you need counseling, you have to say, okay, I'm going to make these steps. This is something I need to absolutely change in my life. It becomes like a new lifestyle almost. You have to adopt new habits and think more, instead of just, letting
reacting.
Yeah, just reacting. So, and get help, because I don't think you can do it on your own, right? When you want to change something, this big in your personality.
Absolutely. It really takes a lot of repetition, a lot of practice. And it's in many ways it's parallel to addiction. So they have the same problem as denial. Denial is a big part of addiction. People say, "Oh, I don't have a problem. I can stop at 4 drinks," and it's like that with high conflict personalities. Yeah. They say, "Oh, I'm the greatest. I don't get into trouble. People love me." And you're thinking, "I don't know anyone that loves you." But they need to, it's something, sometimes some event breaks through and they go, I better get some help. For example, narcissists, that's one of these 5 types. And narcissists who have a target of blame, that's when they're HCP. So not all narcissists have a target of blame. They maybe just make their own lives miserable. But some make other people's lives miserable. But narcissists, it's interesting, as a therapist, I think I only had a couple narcissists during the period I was a therapist. And they seem to start around 40, that they start realizing that things really aren't working for them. Up until then, they think they're the greatest and everyone thinks they're the greatest. Then after the 4th divorce and getting fired 10 times, they go, maybe I have a problem here. I once did couples counseling with a couple that was trying to decide whether to split up or not. And it was the wife's 2nd marriage and the husband's 4th marriage. And in the middle of something the wife said, the husband said, you know what? I'm starting to think maybe I have a problem. And I was like, yay!
Wow.
Work on that. Wow, yeah. So, and it takes a lot to really acknowledge and take ownership of it, like we were saying. I have a question, too, in regards to the paranoid personality, because we had a band actually in San Diego back when we used to live in your area. And the drummer was incredibly paranoid, which I was really naive. I was completely naive to the drug scene of the world. I was really, really naive. I didn't understand what crack or meth or what of that, I knew that there was acid and pot and hash, or whatever, those main things, cocaine, you hear about that, but none of these chemical stuff, none of it.
That's because she was raised outside of this
and we had just got back from South Africa and moved here,
You were what, 18, 19?
19. No, it was 21 by the time we got to California, but I just didn't get it. And, half of the band was like, this guy is on crack and meth, and I'm like, what is that, And I remember going to pick him up for rehearsal, and he thought the military was spying into his hotel room and all this stuff, or where he was staying. I mean, and it went crazy. I mean, it just went on and on and on, and eventually he had to leave the band, and eventually we had to stop playing bands because of this kind of habit that we saw was going around. But and us doing a magazine. But what I wonder is, are any of these personalities developed through long-term drug use of that kind of nature? If you're paranoid every time you're getting high, if you try to get clean, aren't you just going to be that kind of paranoid like you've developed a new personality through drugs?
Well, it's interesting because these are two separate problems that often overlap. So substances can make people paranoid while they're using the substance. And and I've worked in substance abuse treatment. And so when people stop the substance and get clean and sober, a lot of them are no longer paranoid. So it wasn't a personality trait, it really was a substance abuse trait. And so that's a good sign. But occasionally with substances, people get clean and sober, and their behavior gets worse. And that's because sometimes the substances cover up a personality disorder. So let's say someone's growing up with a personality disorder that may have had tendencies starting at birth, and so they knew that things were kind of out of sorts and had a hard time managing themselves. And people with personality disorders have a higher incidence of substance abuse. So they often use alcohol and other drugs, stimulants, depressants, etc., to manage their out-of-control emotions and maybe out-of-control behavior. So that then, let's say that starts around 12 or 14, because that's often when people start getting into drugs. Then let's say they're 23, 24 now, and they get clean and sober. Then you see the personality that was underneath, and that's when you know this person needs more help. It's not just the substance. So they could occur independently or together. That's a very good issue to raise. Yeah.
Wow. That's
but
amazing.
First,
12 to
get
14
them clean
years
and
old?
sober.
That's not cool. 12 to 14 years old, that's just not cool. That's
when a lot of people start.
That's
sad
young.
to say, but their friends or even their parents may start them on pot or something, or give them too much alcohol, etc. So a lot of kids we see, that's when they get started. It's sad.
Wow. This is such a fascinating conversation because, you see, I know exactly the type of person you're talking about, who's gotten clean and sober, and it's like, well, sometimes there's that conversation, well, you're not fun anymore, but that's, and I hate to say that, sorry, but that's a saying that's been around there, and some people won't get cleaned up because of that saying, and that's unfortunate, but it's a truth out there. The other thing I was going to ask about a personality where there's people that we've all got to know these people. I know several of them. And eventually, I just have to distance myself away from it because I personally just can't stand it. In all honesty, I just can't be around this drama. There's people that, and there's the blame game that you talk about where they just always blame. But there's people that I feel like they're in this tumbleweed where they're creating. And sometimes even if it's a natural disaster, it's like they keep going from one drama to the next, and it's almost like their body is saying, here, I want to have a drama.
It's like a chaos.
It's like a chaos factor, but it brings in things that they didn't control. Like someone could, get in a car accident and then get robbed, but they're like high drama kind of people, but things that they didn't create start to happen to them.
Yeah, what we see is, and all of these high conflict personalities, that's characteristic of them. They draw attention to themselves, they want attention, and sometimes the more histrionic personalities are the most intense with the drama, making things up if there isn't something exciting enough to talk about. And so it's almost like they're addicted to the drama. And it looks like an addiction sometimes. But here's the thing is that people around them don't try to argue them out of that. Instead, the approach that I put in the book is the CARS method. And I can talk about that briefly when you're ready. But the idea is take a calming approach that focuses on the future. Don't get stuck arguing with them about the past or about reality. Just say, well, let's look at your choices now. And so that way you don't get stuck in the drama with them. And you can also say, wow, that's really interesting. Well, you know what? I got to go right now. I've got something else I've got to do. So good luck with that.
Have a nice day.
I like that.
Yeah, you don't have to listen.
I love these situations in your book because you get us to think and you show examples and and you're like, well, this person's going to come back. If you say this is how they're going to say it back to you. Or like it can get, like you do not want to provoke these people because, and I look at now with social media, people like, especially in a business situation, they can start on and trash you. They can do a smear campaign. I mean, it's like you have to fire you. They can fire you. They can get violent. So how you handle things, because you say that some of them are really vindictive and revengeful, how you communicate is, you have to be nice to them, but still have to have like a boundary, set a boundary, but without them realizing you're setting a boundary.
Exactly. That's the S of the CARS method, and that's setting limits. And you can, and people don't realize it's not rude to say, I've got something else I've got to do, goodbye, because everybody always has something else they could be doing. So it's gentle. It's not saying, you're a jerk, so I'm walking out. It's saying, good luck with that, but I got to go. So you don't engage, but you're not hostile either. That's when it really gets escalated, is when people try to yell someone out of how they feel or think, and that just doesn't work.
No.
So you have to be in control yourself.
I know I've for our listeners, I've said this story, I've told this story before, but I'm interested in how I should have handled it because I obviously handled it really wrong. I had this boss that would come down the row between all the secretaries' desks, and he made us keep our staplers on the corner of the desk when he went down the aisle. He'd hit the stapler on the left, hit the stapler on the right. He made all this noise, hitting everybody's staplers as he went down the aisle. And for some reason, I found it really annoying. So
that's annoying.
Really annoying, like really annoying. And after about 2 months of working there, I decided that I would move the stapler just as he was going to try and hit it, which I did. And he hit the desk with his fist, and I got fired. And I'm thinking, no, okay, that was not the way to handle it. But I don't know how you would handle something like that without,
saying, stop it.
Stop it.
Well, you always have choices. So why don't I talk about that for a couple minutes? With the CARS method, the first part is connecting with the person, like, how's your day going? Or, hey, Bob, how you doing? Or something, sometimes distracting somebody. So when he gets to your desk, to say, hey, Bob, I enjoyed that meeting last week or something. Sometimes connecting with them in a positive way may divert them from trying to connect in a negative way. Sometimes. It's not always true. Then the A in the CARS method is analyzing options. So look at what your choices are, and it may be you decide that you like the company but you don't like that boss, so you look into getting a transfer. Or you may decide that it's time to move on, or maybe leave your resume in the copy machine so that someone stumbles upon it and goes, uh-oh, we're about to lose Lisa or Nancy or whoever, and we don't want that to happen. And the other is sometimes someone like that is so impossible you're healthier just to get out of there. So it's analyzing what are your options. And when you stop and think, you're going to make better decisions than just reacting. And it may be that little test you gave him helped you see we can't work together, and that
Yeah.
probably was your lucky day.
Yeah, well, I'm not sorry I left, or it was just I didn't want to get fired, but it didn't matter. I had a job within a couple days, but
Yeah.
it was just so weird.
Well, I think one of the most important things, besides recognizing these personalities, and part of it is, being aware. And that's what I love about your book is, being aware. People walk around with their cell phone in their face and walk into poles and cars on the street, but that's how our culture has grown into this lack of awareness. Yet here we are with all this information at our fingertips. However, we've become just like walking zombies in a way. And even when you see people going out to dinner, even at first date, people are sitting with their phones. I'm like, what are you doing? And so I wonder sometimes, of people listening, are they looking at, body language, truly hearing what someone is saying? And, because people do tell you who they are they hearing and really observing those inner voices that go, dude, this isn't cool. Maybe, they're inflating this over here, and maybe this person is, the first date syndrome, especially women, they already start, imagining the wedding. They meet some guy, oh, it's the prince, Prince Charming, and they can already see the house in the suburbs and the kids.
And I only have to
and
fix
the wedding
this,
dress.
this, and that.
Yeah, and I'm going to fix them, but this is that awareness that we actually sometimes squash those little red flags that pop up.
Yeah, we miss a lot. 90% of human communication is body language and tone of voice. And you don't get either of those over the internet, on Facebook or email, etc. And the little emoticons barely scratch the surface. You can't tell, is that a joke or was that serious, what they just said?
Right.
And if they put a smile symbol, is the smile symbol a joke? Or was
sarcastic.
that serious? Yeah, exactly. Whereas
Well,
when you're sitting with somebody, you can usually tell the difference between a joke and a serious sarcasm or criticism. So we're missing a lot. And my theory is that the stuff we see on screens has to be more emotional to hold our attention. So we're shifting from the more logical problem solving to more emotional reacting, and faces and voices, etc., are more emotional. So we're actually losing, human progress. Once humans learned how to write and then how to publish books and things, for which I'm very appreciative. But now we're going backwards. We're getting shorter attention spans, more emotional reactions, and yet they're not appropriate and they're not tuned in reactions. They're just coarse reactions. You watch the news, and at the end of the news, you want to break the TV.
I know.
And it's like, that doesn't mean you learned anything, but that's what happens to us. And it happens to me.
And it's compounding. It's compound
hard.
Emotional interest.
We used to try.
It's
to
contagious.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like because we're herd animals. If one does it, we all do it.
Unfortunately, that's exactly true. Yeah.
Yeah, I watch nature a lot, and I always, my mind goes, okay, this person's acting like this. I'm like, that's that kind of animal behavior right over there. And then be careful because it will bite.
All animals will bite.
Exactly. And you can learn a lot by sitting and watching animals. But I feel like we used to struggle to find exactly the right words when we used to handwrite letters and type letters and really think to make sure the person who received the letter didn't get the wrong idea. Now, let's just go to cell phone communication where most of the words are not spelled correctly, and if they use words, and then all these little symbols. And the fact that people feel now they can say the meanest things, whatever they want, and then put a smiley face and it's okay. Like,
Right.
I didn't really mean it because I put a smiley face after I just told you what I really don't like about you. And that's where we are right now.
I'm going to respectfully tell you how much you irritate me, smiley face.
Yeah, well,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, and so I think this whole behavior is actually taking someone who has a high conflict personality that might normally have been able to not be so annoying or so overreactive, and causing them to be overreactive even more so, because everybody's pushing buttons.
Yes, and environment matters even moment to moment. So if the
Mm-hmm.
people around you are criticizing you and you have some of these tendencies, then it's going to bring them out more. If the people around you are being respectful, friendly, have empathy for you, it's going to bring out the best. So I'm talking about 10% of the population, and the 35 million number is North America, so that's the United States and Canada. But 10% of North America population, and maybe around the world, seem to have this high conflict pattern, and it overlaps with traits of personality disorders. But the idea is that this is something that we can learn to manage, but we also influence each other. So you can almost decide if you're going to make that person angry or make that person happy. And if they tend towards high conflict behavior, you're going to have to work a little harder at keeping things calm. So the trick is, by managing your own emotions, you can actually manage high conflict people. So if you can stay really calm, matter of fact, friendly, give them empathy, attention, and respect, they tend to calm down quite quickly. If you criticize them, tell them they're stupid, things like that, they jump out of their chair or out of the computer.
Right. Well, and it creates a easier situation on all. I mean, even for us to stop and not do the immediate emotional response or that reaction is actually a better way to handle things anyway, and it calms yourself down. I mean, the stress level you don't have to get into a huge fight or a huge drama. It's not good for anyone. You never know how far it will go. So I like that, because you also talk about, hey, we've become these individual communities of ourselves, not just, we don't have the village like we used to. So things have changed, and we need to really be responsible for our actions. I think your book gives us all a wake-up call, just
for sure,
because we have gotten into this reactionary lifestyle in a way, and maybe not communicating as best as we could. So I think it's a good thing for everybody to practice in general. But you talk about the web method, which you've been kind of touching on throughout this conversation. But can you tell people how to apply this? Because it's super cool.
Yeah, it's noticing what people's words are, that's the W in web, what your emotions are. In other words, how you feel in response to this person. Does this person make you feel scared, make you feel depressed, make you feel stupid, or do they make you feel ecstatic, like they're superhuman, they're perfect? Like you said, you're already planning the wedding and buying the house in your mind. Well, the extremes of their words, all or nothing words, blaming words, often give you a hint this may be someone to steer clear of, or, not get too close to too fast. So it's extreme words, all or nothing words, blaming words. Your emotions, so if you feel those extreme positive, extreme negative, or discomfort, then what you want to do is look below the surface. Don't just go, oh, their words sound great, because that's what con artists do. They have the most beautiful words in the world, but your emotions often tell you, wait, I can't be so sure here. And the last is their behavior. And if they do something that 90% of people would never do, then be suspicious that under the surface is a high conflict pattern. So they punch a hole in the wall. or they throw things and storm out in the middle of a staff meeting, or road rage, or make threats like suicide or homicide. Those are things that are extreme that 90% of people won't do, and there may be a pattern underneath it that you want to be careful about. So that's the web method. It's actually fairly simple. It just takes practice. Words, their words, your emotions, their behavior.
Is it okay to just walk away or like hang up the phone?
Yeah.
That's my technique. I just hang up.
Yeah.
I just go like, that's enough of that. I give people enough, like, I can't do this right now, or, you know what, I really need to go, or whatever. If they continue on, I just walk away, or I just hang up the phone. I'm terrible about that because I can't, I really, people that are like, I don't like it.
Yeah, and I think we have to feel okay about setting limits with high conflict behavior. Mm-hmm. So what I like to do is tell them, usually either I have to go, I've got something else, so good luck with that, and they're still talking, and I can put the phone down because I was nice, I gave them some empathy. Or if they're saying something really obnoxious, like as a lawyer, I've represented victims of domestic violence at times, and I had one woman I represented. Her husband didn't have a lawyer, so he could talk to me. He'd call up and say, "Mr. Reddy, you tell that so-and-so," and he'd say these horrible words about her. And I'd say, you know what, you have a choice. Don't use those words, and I'll listen to you. If you keep using those words, I'm going to hang up. It's up to you. And so he says, I don't care. She's a blah, 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 blah. And I said, you've made your choice. Goodbye. Click. The next day he calls me up, and he wants to talk about something of her. And he says, you tell her that's so-and-so. And I said, remember, if you use those words, I'll have to hang up. He said, no, I won't. I'll try to be careful. And so the next time he didn't do that. And so, but I think it's okay to end a phone conversation or a face-to-face conversation. We feel like we're being rude, but if the person we're dealing with is being rude, it's not unreasonable to say, I got to go, or you've made your choice, and so I have to stop this conversation.
Good, because I've done that a couple of times, and I've I remember, but I just had to kind of go like, this is enough of this. And I think sometimes in life you get these, even family. I mean, I've totally walked away from family members that are just continual. If you just, there's a point in your life you have to make decisions, like you said. What is your goals? Do you want to be around this forever? And sometimes you have to walk away from the drama that is continual. And there are people that steal and manipulate and do crazy lie. The lying thing is bizarre to me. Like, people really do, like, they believe their own lies. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. So I think
that's a common thing with high conflict people, is they tend to lie more than the average. And so that is something to be aware of. And some of them don't even realize it. They're so used to distorting their reality.
Wow.
I think that's true, and I think after they've said something once, they believe it, and it becomes part of who they are, and they'll say it over and over and over again, and you're like, well, actually, that's not really true.
Yeah. It is the way it is. But Bill, it is time to play Happy Hour. Are you ready? It's time.
Sure.
Ring that bell. Okay, so Bill, if you were to spend happy hour with anyone, alive or passed on, who would it be, and where would you spend happy hour? What are you going to talk about, and what are you going to have to drink? It could be alcoholic or non.
Well, the first thing is, the person that I've always most been interested in growing up, my whole life really, is Ben Franklin, because he was a scientist and a politician. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone in history that could combine science and politics like he did, and his politics were good, helping with the Constitutional Convention. Everyone talks about the Constitution. Well, the Constitution was pieced together a lot because Ben Franklin was on the scene, and he stayed reasonable when everyone else was yelling at each other. So Ben Franklin would be the guy. Now, what would I drink and where? Well, one of my favorite places, and you talk about happy hour, is in San Diego. It's the Hotel del Coronado. And they face out in the ocean. They've got a great patio bar. And so, to me, living in San Diego, this probably isn't a surprise, but I would just love to sit out there and have a margarita. And to be honest, I've done that many times. So my drink would be a margarita. My place would be the Hotel del Coronado. I'd be chatting with Ben Franklin. I'm saying, how did you do it, Ben? How did you make it all work?
Yeah.
I love Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
I think, and how he was a negotiator between us and the French, he just kept this calmness, and he was fun. And if you ever read his biography, it is, that big, thick biography, it is one of the best books ever. I love it. Love him.
Yeah. He's a fascinating guy, so that would be great.
I love that he did blend science and politics. I think that's a good maneuver too.
I think it would solve a lot.
Yeah, I do. I think it's
bring him back.
Yeah, I like it.
Bring back Ben.
Great choice. And
that's what.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
I said that's what we need. We need a Ben Franklin now to figure out the science of today's politics.
Yeah,
that would be really good.
I love that, and I want to have a margarita at the Hotel Del. I love that area.
Yeah.
Coronado is so beautiful, and it's haunted, and it's got the beach. I love it. I love that area. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bill, and for writing your book. I think it's super important for all of us to read, and I know this is going to be a bestseller. It is, because
I think so.
Everyone has to read this. It's really, really good. It gives us such good insight and makes us really take control of situations and makes us all think, and I think that's a good thing. Everyone, again, it's by Bill Eddy, and that's Eddy, and the book is called 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life, Identifying and Dealing with Narcissists, Sociopaths, and Other High-Conflict Personalities. You can get it on Amazon now, and also go to his website, highconflictinstitute.com. Thank you so much for all your conversation and advice.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Good luck with your book, and take care, and enjoy that
take
margarita.
Yeah.
I will.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
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 I love his book.
Yeah, there's a whole other part in there where he's talking about the neurons between your left brain and right brain, and how you switch back and forth, use this for this, use that for that. And he makes a point that some people have less neurons if they had an abusive childhood or they, depending on how they were raised, and that you can actually, through therapy, change that and get more neurons.
Okay, so
Isn't
that
that
goes,
weird?
well, you know how they always said, like, when you're a kid.
I probably said that all wrong.
No, but it's all the same. When you were a kid, they always say, don't drink, don't do this, because you're going to, destroy your brain cells, and you can never bring them back. Like, once your brain cells are dead, it's done. You're going to have an empty head. And then later, like Deepak Chopra and all these, scientists and, showed how, and actually it was like, it was there all along, but Western medicine didn't want to look, that, every cell has a nucleus. We have a brain in every cell, and they do regenerate. And so it's really cool. So it's the same thing. We can build our things back. I mean, we can regenerate.
Go too far.
Yeah. Some animals clone themselves, like seafood. Not seafood.
There's
fish
that
and things.
fish. You read that too,
it's a cloning thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I don't know. I just find it fascinating how these personalities are created and how they work, and it's just like it's fascinating to me. But now we got some good music that is not high conflict. It makes you feel really good and makes me just go out to nature. I do. I feel like deer in the forest and mist is coming through, and it's just so beautiful. John Durant is joining us next, and incredible guitarist. And it's just when you listen to this music, realize it's him playing all the guitars in this. I mean, everything, it's all him. It's a solo album, and it is beautiful. So the album is called Parting Is, and you can go to jondurant.com, that's Jon, or burningshed.com or Amazon to get the album. So take a listen to Traveling In off of the album, and then we'll have a conversation with him.
Cool.
I think he likes cocktails like us, too.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll find out
That's
about
right.
his happy hour choice, too. So here it is, everybody, Traveling. Uh-oh, it went away. What happened on my little sound thing? Well, maybe we won't be playing that first. Okay, so here it is. We'll play Clouds in Advance.
Okay.
You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Happy Hour Show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard Clouds in Advance, the very first track on Parting Is, which is the latest solo guitar album by Jon Durant. You can go to his website, jondurant.com, and that's John with no H in there. And you can also go to his website, burningshed.com, where you can get the album Parting Is, and also on Amazon. But welcome to the show, John. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing good. I mean, I'm glad I had Travels Within to have played that first, but I'm actually glad Clouds in Advance, because when you listen to Clouds in Advance, a lot of us wouldn't think that was guitar.
That's. I thought it was funny that you started there because of that very thing. It sounds nothing like a guitar. So your listeners are all very confused right now, I'm sure.
And they're thinking that I had too many cocktails.
Well, exactly. One too many cocktails, and who knows what's going to happen with a guitar.
That was all maracas, by the way, everybody. There was no guitar work in the, it's all complete percussion. There was an oboe. Did you hear that? No, I'm kidding. But this is amazing, the guitar work. I mean, it really is unique. I don't think I've heard a guitar album like yours ever, and I love it because it takes me into almost like an embryonic state where we're new to the world and have just complete innocence and one with nature. That's what it feels like for me.
Wow,
yeah.
Thank you. That's fascinating because one of the things that really initially concerned me when I was making the record was that I really felt like I was being completely exposed. I was totally naked. I was just, because it's just me, and I'm kind of doing this thing that's very different from what everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, when I've done these things, I mean, I've been doing this for far too many years to count, 25, 30 years. And the thing about it is I've always put a piece like Clouds in Advance. I've done this for a long time, but it's always been in a context where there's been percussion elements and there's been bass parts and there's been normal guitar parts. And there's, it becomes an element. And one of the things people always assumed it was a synthesizer,
Yeah.
Easy enough to make that assumption. But no, it's just me processing the guitar in very unusual ways. And but it is,
cool.
It's got me just feeling totally sort of stark naked.
Naked is good.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, there's a freeing sense to it. No, because I think, but there's it is a very internal sound. It's like part of, I don't know how to explain it, but it does feel like it's part of a body, like our body, not body sounds that we don't want to hear, but it's kind of like I just got to clarify, but, it just feels like a very intimate album as well. And to me, it just flows. And when I listen to an album, especially an album like this one, and your album, Parting Is, I don't really look at all the titles, as you can tell everyone, but I just listen, and so it's just this, you just float. And I think everyone needs to listen to this because we need to calm down. We just had that interview about high conflict people in the world. We need to calm down, people.
We really do.
We need, there's that. I want to go out into nature.
This is not a high conflict record, yeah.
Yeah, we need this, and we need to I don't know, red wine would be really nice to listen to this with.
I think it's
nice Malbec.
It just reminded me of a place I used to go as a kid in Tahunga in California. There's a little stream, and you could watch the leaves just kind of float down the little stream. And it just kind of made me feel like that.
Sure, yeah. And interestingly, I mean, the artwork on the album cover is also not an accident. And I guess I probably didn't credit it, but it's actually my photography from Iceland. And
wow.
Iceland is one of those places that unfortunately too many people are starting to find out about, so I shouldn't say anything about it. But it is one of those places where you can still drive hours and not see another human being on the road. And it's spectacular. And so, there is a lot of that. And the whole idea behind the album was that it was never, I never had any idea that I was going to do a record. And B, the idea was just, this is sort of what I do almost on a daily basis. It's these sort of almost meditations where I'll do is I'll try to clear my head completely and go down into my studio, pick up my guitar and start with one note, one chord, and have no idea where exactly I'm going to go with it. And then everything flows from there. And I tried to, as much as possible, there's several pieces, including Clouds in Advance, were done entirely live. It was just kind of, it happened in that moment. And I left it like that. And, the pieces that are like that, I feel really strongly that There were a couple that I thought, I should really redo these. There's one little bit that I don't feel that great about, and then I thought, no, that's going to ruin the vibe. So,
yeah, to me, it's very, it just flows. I mean, it's amazing how you're making these sounds. So, I mean, are you layering and looping? I mean, to have one person.
Yes, and interestingly, that's kind of one of the things I was very early on was with looping, and I try a lot of this is like looping, except these long delays that don't actually loop, but eventually kind of disappear and other elements get layered in, and so it kind of, it's what I call cloud guitars, and the notes kind of hang in the air and hang around, but you don't really notice when they go away, and you sometimes don't notice when they start, and much like a cloud, right? There's no real discernible beginning or end, and cool. It kind of it's different where looping, and there are a couple of tunes on here that have loops, where the loop it's a consistent thing, and it just keeps repeating, and I'll play over the top of that. But most of this album, I didn't end up using the loops. I may have started with a loop at one point, and then taken it and reconstructed. This is what I did. Now let me reconstruct it, and then I can make it not loop-like. I can play it all live, and I can move the elements in ways that you can't do once you've got them set in a loop.
Wow. You're a trip, man. Well, about the cloud part, I dig that, because it's like cloud syncopation, and you could sit and that's what I'm saying. This is good for us, man. There's like a calming peacefulness to this that just is like, okay, I really need to hear this, And your album is like, I always talk about listening to, music in the car on a road trip, and I can see really there's some pristine areas I want to take your album, and the redwoods are calling, man. Like, I really want to go up to Northern California and the Oregon coast, and like I'm in that place because of just those big, rugged cliffs, and I know you spend time in Portland, so I know you know what I'm talking about. And there's little deer
indeed.
and fairies in the forest, and like it's that.
Absolutely.
It's that
there's a ton
it's
of that,
magic.
And it's funny. I hadn't even thought about it until just hearing the end of your previous conversation. It really did kick in to me that must have been going on in my brain, because there's so much negativity that's going on right now, and as recently, I'm trying to think now. I started this album in summertime, so there's been an awful lot of negativity leading up to that. And I honestly had no plans to do this until a friend of mine in Turkey had asked me about, what do you do on a daily basis musically? How do you get yourself motivated? And I started explaining this process, this sort of meditative thing. And I sent like an iPhone video saying, here's an idea. And she came back to me saying, why don't you record these? And I said, because it's kind of the antithesis of what I'm thinking about, right? I'm thinking about just being in the moment and not, as soon as you hit record, you're in the studio, right? You hit record, you're on. And everything then is structured by what's going to tape, right? Or, tape. I'm an old geezer, I'm sorry. But the whole idea was that I wanted to remove myself from that place. But I thought, okay, well, what happens if I do? Does it change anything? And it turns out it didn't. It turns out that I think some real magic happened, and I think you're right. I think it's this trying to expel all the negativity around us.
I really it is meditational music in a way, and I think people need this kind of music to get there. at times because of the, our minds go crazy when we say, okay, now we're all going to calm down. It's like going back to school. Like, boys and girls, don't fidget. Stop poking, all of that. It doesn't happen. But this, music really is this universal tool and language and heartfelt thing. And, the meditation part of it, and when you were talking about the clouds, I have a friend who does those Buddhist bowl things, and
yes,
and you go around and around, and I can't remember the name, and then sometimes Makeda, she's an awesome publicist. Anyway, she does these, and she goes up on Instagram and Facebook, and will film it, and I'm just like, please stay there and do that. And sometimes I'll email like, come on, Makeda, I need another one, because what's so neat about the sound, it's the same thing like with the little ting of a bell, and you listen to that sound linger on a bell. You ring it once. It's that one ting, and you listen, and it's used in meditation. And those bowls, when she does one, she'll start one, and then it'll start its thing, and then she'll start another one, and you're like, dude, this is cool, man.
Yes, and part of it is, there's real science behind what's actually going on, but ultimately it's the bowls are tuned in such a way, they ring, and when you get harmonic convergence of a couple of them, really wonderful things happen, really magical.
I think it makes us slow down and actually take a breath.
Totally.
And it's kind of circular in a way.
Yeah, what's great too with the bells too is because you get the initial hit, right? There's the attack when the hand sort of knocks the bowl. You get that first ting, but it's what happens after. It's all those overtones that are sort of hanging about in the air and put in the right space. They're just something else.
It's interesting because things like this in your music is you will listen. It's kind of remember how to listen.
Yeah,
and it's remember to be grounded. Remember when you could just breathe. Remember, it's kind of, to me, it's like bringing you back home. It's like, okay, everything's crazy out there, but you don't have to go out there. You can.
And that's funny too, because because I'm an old geezer, and I grew up on LPs, and I have a memory, and I wish I could get back to this space, and I do sometimes now that vinyl has come back.
Thank God.
But I used to love when I would get a new album, and I would put it on the turntable, and I would just be completely immersed in the music, and 20 minutes later you've got to get up and flip the record over and then sit back down. And we didn't have our iPhone buzzing us. We didn't have any of these things. It was me and the music, and I was completely engrossed. And I can remember dating back to the early to mid 70s, that was entirely my listening experience. And it's actually really gratifying to hear you say that about my music, because I hope it's like that. I try to make it an engrossing experience that you sort of want to dive in and sort of let the music take you over for 50 minutes, and then you can get on with the rest of your day.
I want to paint to it.
I know.
I don't know. It's
Sure.
You want to create things. It's very creative, and I also, by the way, love your album label, your record label, Alchemy Records. That's like that's perfect. It's like I feel like you're doing wizardry, It's like, what's your studio look like? Do you have like wizardry, magical things in there?
No, I don't. No, I've got a lot of photography down there. Some of my own. I had a radio promoter from Nashville who did some amazing work. I have a thing for water, and he could capture it really well. And I because I got into photography about 10, 15 years ago, I've got a bunch around, and it sort of has begun to take over.
Nice.
Cool.
Are you on Instagram with it? I want to see.
Well, you know what's funny about my Instagram? What ends up on Instagram is entirely about food, actually.
Oh, cool.
Which is one of my
I'm gonna
other,
have to find you
my
on there
other
now.
things. Well, we have a really funny thing that goes on here. My wife and I have Friday night as our date night.
Cool.
And we have this running joke. It's Friday night at Chez JD, and there are people who assume it's a restaurant that we go to every Friday night, and it's just home. And you know, she works and has a proper job, and that's how we manage to live the way we do, because nobody can make a living in music at this point. But so she comes home, and I've cooked a delightful meal and made cocktails, and we've had a really hard time finding a decent place to eat here south of Boston, and so instead we just stay in, and it's a bit of a running joke. You know, we have people trying to get reservations, and
Oh, how funny!
Oh, that's cool. Oh my gosh, I love that, because there was that restaurant on TripAdvisor, created their own TripAdvisor account. And it was in London, and all these people kept trying to book, and they're like, "Sorry, we're booked up." And it had all these 5-star reviews, and no one. It's a fake restaurant.
Oh, how funny!
And they got all these
That's
reviews,
great.
and then finally this person just said, "Okay, screw it. I'm having a pop-up night," and people came and got to like in the backyard or something. It was in downtown somewhere, London. I don't know.
Oh,
But
that's
they,
cool.
how do you get all these See, this just shows
Yeah.
how half of that stuff out there is just full of it.
Nonsense.
I
It's
know
just
that.
nonsense.
Well put. Because it's just like, how do you get 5-star reviews to a place that no one's been
nobody's
to?
been to.
And how does a trip? Yeah, come on now.
Yeah.
Just saying. But that's. I think you should set up a TripAdvisor account and a Yelp account and see what happens.
Right. That's it.
I swear you should,
See,
just so we can watch.
I'm gonna take marketing advice from you. There we go.
I know, just like, create fake accounts, and then the Russians will come out after you, But the other thing about this album too is, listening to the whole thing, because it has that flow, and it isn't it's not obnoxious. There's this like Nancy says, it sneaks up on you and draws you in. Do you see this getting used in movies or videos?
Oh,
I see
gosh,
that as
I'd
a
love
visual.
to. I'd love to, and we've been trying to make that happen with Burnt Belief and my own work.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult thing to get into, and part of it is because there's a ton of people that want to get in. It's one of the few places you can still make some money, but even the people I know that are in there doing it aren't doing anything near what they used to be doing. And a lot of them are like, well, yeah, I put it in front of my music supervisor, but then, that's cutting into my business, and,
Wow.
So it's a challenge. It's a really difficult challenge, and what it really means is that the right person needs to hear it in the right place and go, yes, that's what I want. And then it opens up. And until that happens, you keep throwing it out there, and you keep trying to get it in front of people, and hopefully maybe someday something breaks.
Well, you just keep going, yeah.
Yeah.
And the internet helps, in some ways. It helps and it doesn't help, And how do you, when you look at like an album like this, I know there's all these categories, and like definitely instrumental, right? But
sure.
Do you think people would label this as new age?
Sure.
Because of the comments?
And I don't actually run away from it in this case. I mean, once upon a time that actually, it was a marketable thing, wasn't it? And it became a bad word for a while, and but I don't think it's a bad word. I think it's especially with a record like this, it definitely falls into that category. On the other hand, it's a lot more adventurous than a lot of what got marketed as new age, right?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it David Lance who started it? Like the whole new age?
Sure,
David Lance?
He was certainly one of the originals. There was all the whole Windham Hill scene, and private music and Narada and all of that.
It gets into this big thing, and then everybody goes, "Okay, now we're going to go and play disco."
Yeah, now it's something else.
So yeah, it's amazing how these things come and go and change. Because I think that it is a calming thing. Your album, like I was saying earlier, but I wanted to ask, you've done this, right? But what's going on with the Ukrainian folk music?
Yeah, so that started a few years ago. Colin Edwin and I had done a couple records together, and he got involved in this project over there. He got brought over there to play a show with another group he was in. And the promoter got him in touch with these women that were singing this folk music, and they wanted to bring it into a modern context. And he, like me, is fascinated with music from other cultures around the world, and said, sure, that would be fascinating. And he got involved, and he was working early on one of the pieces, and wanted my opinion. And I said, gee, this is really interesting. Do you want some of my guitar on here? And he said, I hadn't even thought about that. That would be great. So I did a guitar part, sent it off, and he said, oh, that works. Here's another one. Next thing I knew, I had played on basically a whole record. And everybody was all excited about it, and they had gotten on a huge festival in Kiev in the summer. And so they flew us out there, and we played this festival, and it was great. It went really well, and they liked it so much they brought us over to London in September, and we did another festival there, and that went great. And 2 weeks after that, the whole political debacle happened, where the president was deposed, and then Putin annexed Crimea and everything, and everything went dark. So it turns out in 2016, the record came out in Ukraine, but nowhere else. And out of nowhere, this past year, I got another call from Colin saying, so in the interval, one of the women had left, the other one had gotten married, had a baby, but now she's back working, and she's written some new material. Do you want to get involved? And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely, love her singing. So this time I got much more involved in terms of both playing and also composing, and it's fascinating because the way it works is we just get a vocal track with no harmonic instrumentation or anything, just the vocals, and we have to build a track around that. So it's a fascinating process, and I'm really excited about how it's coming out, and so I'm hoping that will be done by the end of this year, but it's a little unclear. There's still a few vocal parts, and Ina is actually in New York at the moment, and she's in a show there, and I'm not sure how long she's going to be, so it'll be a little while before she's done. So that may throw our timing into a bit of a loop, but certainly by early next year we'll be done, and we're definitely, instead of just leaving it to the Ukrainians, we're going to do, I'll release it on Alchemy, and Colin will release it in Europe, and then if they want to license it over there, that's fine, but we're going to control the rights to it. So.
Well, you got to keep us posted. I want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I
Absolutely.
love music from around the world, like Portuguese music. To me, I'm really fascinating. I don't, just like that drama of it all.
Well, this was the thing with Burnt Belief, was that our starting point was taking elements of Middle Eastern and Indian music and putting it together with progressive rock and jazz fusion music, and doing it in a way that just didn't sound like anybody else, and combining it with my ambient textures, and the result of that was really I thought extraordinarily cool, and who knows? I'm sure we'll do something else in the future as well. But the Ukrainian thing is next, and yeah, it's just this album less so. I had some pieces that I had gone sort of more in the Middle Eastern zone, and actually it was my Turkish friend who said, no, don't do those on this record. So,
hey,
save them for when you and I do the record together. We're talking about doing some things together, and she's a wonderful musician over there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Oh, this is awesome. This is so
exciting.
exciting.
Where that comes from.
Yeah, because there's a very oh man, it's I feel like going to the Redwoods with this one, Parting Is, but at the same time I feel like I could be in Ireland, I could be off the Isle of Man, that kind of thing. There's just different places you can take it. I don't know, it's got the ocean. The ocean is in there.
Oh, for sure.
Returning to the Departure, that's like you've got the ocean in there, man. I can hear it. It's there. I've got the beach.
It was actually the Returning to the Departure was actually the Departure Lounge in Barcelona. So
wow.
Yeah, okay, there's the sea.
Okay. Well, I don't know about departure lounges. No, unless you have the hotel bar. That's the whole thing. And everyone, you've got to follow John on Instagram. This is such a cool account. JD Alchemy. Okay, everyone. There's so much food here.
Me.
Man, I'm hungry. Look at
I'm
this.
In so much trouble.
Man, this is so cool. A lot of travel. So you like to travel, you like to cook,
yes,
photograph, and make music. That's like a nice creative blend. We like this.
We do.
This sounds like Nancy and I, except for the cooking, we need help. Cocktail making,
okay.
We'll join you. Well, no, we each have our things that we can do, but we've been on the road for the last, now we've been home for a year, but we were on the road full time for 3.5 years. And then came home and started to try and cook again and went, what? Like, how do you,
we discovered,
discovered smoke alarms is really what we did.
And we also discovered we didn't have any pans.
Yeah, because we gave everything away. We're like, here, we don't like again.
So we buy
ingredients.
ingredients.
3.5 years. Pans are important if you're going to cook.
Yeah, we're like, what do we cook it in? And we're like,
if
you can't do everything on a pizza pan.
You can, get some, tongs and hold it over the open fire, I guess. But
oh yeah,
I know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich with an iron.
Yeah, that's it. That's hotel stuff. All our hotel friends are going to yell at us. You can make a tuna casserole in a coffee maker.
So the last time I went to press my pants, that was you. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have dryers, so you never have to iron. But okay, so Ukraine, going to Ukraine, what is the food like there? I've never had Ukrainian food.
It's very different from anything else I've ever had. And I feel terrible because I've got terrible brain block at the moment. They make these wonderful stuffed. The Polish call them pierogies, and I forget what they call them in Ukraine.
Oh, like empanadas.
Terrible. Yeah. Terrible of me to forget that. That's because they're wonderful, and they have different fillings that they do, and lots with beets. I love beets. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love those kind of like is it? I'm just looking it up. Some of them I was trying to Google it, and some of it has honey and. Okay, let's just leave it for other people to talk about. That's like I don't want to ruin what all I know is whatever just came up on the images looks really good. So this is so cool. So you do a lot of travel, which is nice. Where was was Ukraine the last country that you were in outside of America?
No, in the fall. My wife and I actually celebrated our 30th anniversary going to Spain and southern France.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Now that is cool.
Yeah. It
Wine,
was spectacular.
Good food out there.
In fact, we went to the Rioja region specifically because we really like the wine from there, and ended up doing a wonderful winery tour where they cooked for us in one of the wineries, and it was just delightful.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is about your work with your kids, because this is, because Nancy and I we were in a band together at one point. We were kind of touching with that in the first interview, but like I didn't realize half the band was like were drug addicts and rapists. Like honestly, and I'm not joking. But the other part was really cool. And then I learned don't date the bass player. Nancy learned don't date the drummer. But anyway, we had a good time. It was interesting. Anyhow.
So
I learned a lot. Let's put it that way.
My son, who's a bass player, is a wonderful man. Don't say
okay,
that.
I won't. I'm not trashing bass players. I love bass players.
He's a cancer researcher at Weill Cornell. He's not, he's not a bad guy. Cool. Yeah, he plays the bass, but
No, the bass is cool.
But the thing is, basically, we learned don't date bandmates.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, don't date bandmates. Yeah, that's never. No,
stuff happens, but it makes good music.
Well, it worked for Fleetwood Mac for a year, but
there's enough drama after that.
Yeah, right. But if you sell 50 million records, it might be worth it.
Yeah, really.
We never got to that level.
No. That's okay. Neither did I. So, but yeah, no. Working with my kids was amazing because it was at a time, when I took a little break for a few years, and a lot of it was out of frustration with how things were going in the music industry, and of course they've only gotten worse. But the music has to be made, and there it is. But the timing was sort of perfect because they were young teenagers and really beginning to take shape as musicians. And by a fluke of timing, my high school band got back together. The original idea was we were going to have a lovely dinner and just hang out. First time we'd seen each other in 25 years. And the week before, of course, everybody's saying, "Oh, we got to play," and the bass player was like, "Guys, I wouldn't even know where to put my fingers." But my son said, "Sure, I'll do it." He's 14 years old, and so on Wednesday he hears the tunes for the first time, and on Saturday night he played them flawlessly.
Wow.
And the drummer from the band was like, "Okay, we got to do this all the time. I'm buying a drum kit." He hadn't played in 20 years, and he said, I've got to get a drum kit, and we're going to get back into it, and we're going to start playing. And my younger son, who's a guitar player at the time, was 11, and he joined in. And within a year, we were playing some very complicated music. I mean, we were playing Porcupine Tree songs. We were playing Sigur Rós, Foals. It was
cool.
It was challenging and fun and exciting, and it was great. It was as satisfying as any musical experience I've ever had, just because you're watching your kids sort of grow and develop right in front of your eyes, and doing it in a way that was, I just can't think of anything more fun than playing in a band with your kids.
That's awesome.
It's really spectacular, and it was great. We had so much fun.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, I think that the arts took a big beating. Like, okay, everybody can publish their own book, and everybody now thinks they can write because you can publish your own book, and they forget that maybe you need to know how to spell, and you need the talent of writing, and you definitely need an editor. So you've got that, and then in the painting world, when Prince came out, there went a lot of the value of art, and so the art world got shook by the print market, the writing world got shook by the internet and the ability to publish, and the music world got shook by the internet.
And holograms.
And that's really funny. And I'd like to make some holograms of my own. It would be too much fun to put ghosts everywhere. But I just feel like it'll come full circle, I don't know when, where those who are really, really ultra creative will
rule the world.
Yeah, they'll come to the top. There are certain things that cannot be replaced by robots. and mass production.
Yes, and I just
Yeah.
think what has to happen is that people have to care enough.
Yeah.
Is what
I
it comes
agree.
down to. It because if people just want to, watch, who was it at halftime at the Super Bowl?
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake, whatever. And so that's all people want to consume. That's fine. They're welcome to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. We don't know we don't know anything about football except for men in tights running around with big shoulder pads. And then the music halftime thing. It's like, no,
but
whatever.
This
We can
giant spectacle
later.
of totally, generic, mass-produced stuff to design to get people going woohoo, and it just doesn't,
Yeah.
It doesn't
But
move me in any way.
Did he lip sync
whatsoever.
like everybody else?
Can I just say what is fun to do if you have to watch football? You turn off the sound.
Yeah, that's what we do. And then speed it up.
And then you put whatever kind your choice of music on. It's too much
fun.
fun.
And in fairness, I did watch because, of course, I'm here in Patriots territory, and we lost, and that's fine, whatever. Doesn't bother me. But what I did do that was hysterical was I put on the last 3 tracks from XTC's album Skylarking while this was going on, which are so totally not what was going on in the music, right? And there were moments of sync where the beat of the music was synchronized for a few seconds with the gyrations of the dancers and what have you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was just hysterically funny. I thought that was brilliant.
If you fast forward through a football game that's recorded, it's
really
funny. We saw it, like a little part of it, and we fast forward out of it. And you saw them getting the cup, and you saw the guy walking with the whatever, I suppose that's the Super Bowl. The football.
You mean the
trophy?
The
thing, yeah. And
the
people
trophy.
now this guy is walking, and the way he's walking, everybody's stopping and kissing the football, and I'm like, dude, you never know what you're going to get. But anyway, they're walking down, and the guy looks like a penguin because he's sped up. I mean, if you don't speed him up, he's walking normally. But because he's stopping on either side, it's like it's crazy weird.
So funny.
If anybody's recorded this, go and do the end part of the Super Bowl
totally
sped up,
and then put Benny Hill music with it.
Benny Hill music
or the best,
or the Nutcracker Suite.
Yeah,
that's
for when they're actually playing.
Yeah, the Nutcracker Suite is good
awesome
for football. I'd watch soccer that way because I like soccer because everybody falls down. Everybody falls down in both of them. But anyway, that's just a crazy thing. But I love that. All right, it is time to play Happy Hour, John. I know you're going to like this. I like this. Meditations, music, cocktails, Super Bowl, travel, food, Ukrainian pastries. This is good. I like this. So if you could spend happy hour with anyone alive or passed on, who would it be? Where are you going to spend this happy hour? What are you going to drink? Is this going to be a John concoction? And what are you going to talk about? We want the scandal.
Okay, so I thought about this, and obviously you'd think you got to have a musician, right? Musicians aren't. You start talking music, and it just isn't fun. It's happy hour. You're supposed to have a good time.
Right.
So I thought about, what about a writer who makes me laugh?
Cool.
And so I decided it had to be Christopher Moore. You know him?
Oh, I'm trying to think. No, I just went to Christopher Walken's was my immediate.
Christopher Moore is an amazing humorist who has written books such as Lamb, which is the Gospel According to Childhood Friend.
Oh
and
my gosh!
it's the story of the missing years. So Jesus and Biff as teenagers, and then he wrote Fool, which is King Lear, but told from the perspective of the jester.
Oh, I love this.
But my favorite of all, and why I would have to have Happy Hour with him, is he wrote a book called Sacre Bleu, and it's about the color blue.
Yeah.
And it's about art, and it's about art in turn of the century France, and one of the main characters is Toulouse-Lautrec, and
cool.
It's hysterically funny and bawdy. There's it's France. I learned how to test to see if a baguette is done. You crack it over a kid's head.
No high conflict personalities there.
No, none whatsoever. Did I say that? And no, it's one of the funniest books, but what's really impressive about that book is that his research into the art and into the color making, the making, where the pigments come from, is impeccable. And when he's describing the art, and if you know the piece, you start thinking about that piece in whole new ways. And if you don't know the piece, you start Googling it. You start going, oh my God, look at this. I never would have seen this, but he's pulling out all these other elements of it. And so I would want to pick his brain on all of that, because I'm fascinated by how he researched this book. So cocktails, what are we going to...
Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know that little skunk?
Everybody knows Pepe.
Well, funnily enough, yes, I do. In fact, I just this Christmas time, I went to see the Bugs Bunny at the Symphony, and they actually did one of the Pepe Le Pew pieces.
I think everybody loves Pepe Le Pew just because we want to keep walking around going, Pepe Le Pew. Yeah.
So,
that's it. Oh boy. Okay. So you're gonna have cocktails. What are you drinking?
So what am I drinking? I guess because it's February. It's cold. It was snowing earlier, and then it turned to rain, and then it's going to freeze overnight. So it's miserable.
It's 80 degrees here. You want to come hang out in Tucson? I'm not kidding.
I'm thinking that might be a good idea. So I'm thinking we're going to have my bourbon vanilla Manhattan.
Ooh,
there you go.
With cardamom bitters.
Cardamom in there. Yeah. I like that. Now wait. So the vanilla. Are you taking the vanilla? You know how people do that with vodka and stuff,
you can.
Like the
infuse. You can infuse, and I've actually done a really great vanilla butter infused bourbon. But no. What I use for the vanilla is actually the 33 liqueur from Spain.
Wow. See, this is why you travel around. I know, Pepe Le Pew. I know. Okay, so this drink, that's right up our alley. That's you say the word vanilla and you say bourbon, like you've got us there. Like we're there.
You got to use good bourbon. I mean,
Yeah. We're going to Kentucky. We're going to Kentucky this year.
To do the bourbon trail.
To do the bourbon trail
this
year.
My brother lives in Kentucky, and we went for Thanksgiving this year, and totally worth it.
Oh,
cool, cool.
Yeah.
We can't wait.
You're
can't wait.
Have a blast.
Well, we love it.
Awesome.
We're
you two
excited.
are going to get into so much trouble.
That's right.
I expect a report.
Oh, you'll see it. Follow us on Instagram. We have a pink sock monkey called Priscilla. That goes. She's our travel mascot because going to all these parks and stuff that we do, and we take photos of her because no one should see what we get up to, but everybody can watch her. We thought it was for kids, for people to show kids about Priscilla goes to the park, the museum. But she's a diva, but she's a dirty diva.
She's a slut.
She is a slut. But anyway, this conversation's going so well. Okay, so you've got good bourbon, you got vanilla, you got a really cool cocktail, you've got Chris Moore, the author, Where is this happening?
So do I get to get in the TARDIS and go to turn of the century France?
Sure. Hey, wait.
Yeah,
wait.
there we go.
You're going.
Yeah.
Wait, and then wait. You can wait. I have something for this. Okay, everybody, get into the time machine. See? Now, where did you get out in France?
So it's Paris. It's the Moulin Rouge. It's
Ooh.
yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I like this.
And we may have to finish the evening with absinthe.
Oh yes.
Because,
yes.
Right.
And Pepe would Le Pew would give you thumbs up.
Pepe Le Pew is now dating Priscilla.
And because he's a slut too, and he doesn't know what she gets up to. I love this. So John, we're gonna play The Room Where She Waits.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I love this. And everyone, this is the 4th track, and we've got to go. And I'm sorry, I've enjoyed this conversation with you so much.
It's been great fun. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for such a beautiful album. Again, it is "Parting Is" by John Durant. He's on Facebook under you're not under John Durant. You're actually under there as Burnt Belief, right? Did I get that right?
Well, I'm under. There's Burnt Belief. There's also John Durant. Yep.
Okay.
Both.
Okay, so everyone, you can find him there. But go to his website, johndurant.com, no H in the John, because that's the way he likes it. It's like his vanilla and good bourbon.
How I roll.
That's how he rolls with Pepe. And you can also go to burningshed.com and get it on Amazon. And here it is, The Room Where She Waits. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, cheers to you
Take
too.
care.
Salute. everyone, again. That was The Room Where She Waits by John Durant off of his incredible album, Parting Is, and you can get it through burningshed.com, Amazon, or go to his website, johndurant.com, and that's Jon, johndurant.com. See how it changes?
I know, it's amazing.
But
it sounds more like a horn.
I was going to say, it's almost like a horn sound.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What an inventive, creative soul. He's a real creative.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a little bubble of creativity. It's amazing. I want to have cocktails with him, don't you?
He sounds like a creative cocktail.
I know. We got to go in a time machine, and then even Bill Eddy going, "Hey, we're going to the Hotel Del." It's like I may be a family therapist, but I want to have my margarita too. All right, everybody, stay tuned. We're going to talk about how to have a $1 million business. As a one-person $1 million business. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
That's cool.
Well, the rise of $1 million one-person businesses in the past 5 years is the biggest trend in employment today, offering the widest range of people the most ways to earn a living while having the lifestyles they want. It's exciting. It's a whole revolution going on, and I'm excited because it's out on the forefront. Elaine Pofelt knows all about it. She's a contributing writer for Forbes.com and a contributing editor to Crane's New York Business, and she's joining us on Big Blend Radio's Happy Hour show to talk about the solo entrepreneurial insights in her insightful and inspiring new book. It's called The $1 Million One-Person Business. Make great money, work the way you like, have the life you want.
I like it.
It is an awesome book. I spent a couple nights. I just ate it up, like just reading it, and it's like I said, it's very insightful, but very practical. You walk away from it going, whether you're someone looking at getting into business or already in business. If you're already in business, you're going to find tools and tips and just a different thought pattern probably. And if you're new to a business, this is going to get you started and get you thinking on how to do it correctly. So anyway, the $1 Million One-Person Business is on Amazon, but you can go to the website. It's themilliondollar1personbusiness.com. Welcome, Elaine. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Lisa and Nancy. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy to be here and speak with you and your audience.
Well, we're excited because I think, Nancy and I have always kind of done our own thing, so we're kind of a two-person business. And actually, in your book, some of the entrepreneurs that you interviewed, which you've got over 40 entrepreneurs inside the book, and it was so great to have their insight. For us, like we always think, like, are other people like us, and then if you need to work with someone, you contract out, or, someone else has got, hey, a virtual assistant business, and, we seem to work better that way. And but we all kind of feel like isolated in a way. It doesn't seem like it's – I know you write about this a lot, and I'm excited that you do. I think you're the only person I know that actually is really focusing on solopreneur businesses. Do you think it's kind of untapped, this subject?
I do, Lisa. What's so funny, I've been writing about entrepreneurship for many years, and I always found – that the business media focused on scalable entrepreneurs, the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next founder of Snapchat, and the one-person businesses who make up the vast majority of small businesses get ignored. And in fact, they're almost told that they're doing the wrong thing by remaining a one-person business or a partnership like you guys. I think one of the things that is worth noting is the U.S. Census Bureau keeps track of one-person businesses and partnerships, so it puts them under one rubric. They're called non-employer businesses, and those are businesses that are staffed by the owners only, so they don't have any other W-2 employees, and they're considered a group. One thing that really excited me when I came across it in my reporting was the growth of high-revenue non-employer firms. So in 2015, this is the most recent year available, there were 35,584 non-employer firms, so businesses like yours and Nancy's size or solo entrepreneurs that were bringing in $1 million to $2.49 million in annual revenue. And that number is up since 2011 by 33%.
Wow.
Every single year that I've tracked this, it's been growing. And one thing that's driving it is the availability of free and low-cost technologies that anyone can use to build a strong presence, no matter how small their business is. And it is truly a revolution. It is, because we've never had this power in our hands as one-person businesses and partnerships before.
And the other thing, too, is that we've got all these tools, and online tools, and people doing side businesses. And you talk about running a lean business. I think about every entrepreneur that you interviewed in your book talks about running a lean business, and it's like working smart, not hard. Of course, there's those moments. We know about the 48 hours, especially being in the media and publishing time. It's like the coffee pot never stops, and then after that, thank God for wine. But when you look at these kind of businesses, I wonder if it's because people are able to work from home and able to do these they're able to, if they're going to open a business, even while they're working, have that side business. It has to be something that they can manage both things without losing family time and things like that.
Lisa, I think you're right that people really value their lifestyle today. I think we went through the ages of the like the yuppie, for instance, where it was sort of a status symbol to work 80 hours a week and be a company person. But I think that has lost its luster, and people realize we have one go round on Earth, and we have only so much time. We don't know how much time it is, not to be morbid, but we want to enjoy it, and we want to spend it with the people that we love, doing things we find meaningful. And work can bring us meaning, but work isn't the only thing that brings us meaning. Life is very rich. So I think people are saying, you know what, I'm taking a stand in favor of protecting my personal time, but I still need to make a good living. I mean, the cost of living is not getting any lower. In fact, I think relative to people's income, it's gotten higher than in the past. So people have this reality. They can't just quit and go live in a yurt somewhere. They have to make a living. And so they're looking at, okay, so how do I do this and be present for the people in my life? How do I do this and still be a volunteer in my community? How do I do this and engage in my passion for mountain biking or music or volunteering? And because of all of these tools, they're able to start a business on the side or as their full-time gig at a very low cost relative to what it used to cost to go into business.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the fact that you don't have to have a building, just for your business. I mean, we've done all sorts. We've had office space that cost us, and it brought us nothing but distractions. Yeah, and we were like, okay, we thought that was a business thing to do. Go out, get a building, and sit in there and do your work. And then we had people walk in, and we're like, why are we having people walk in? We don't have that kind of business. And then we realized, well, they're coming in and chatting. We were in a little small mountain town, and people come in, look around just to see, who are you guys and what do you do here? Drink coffee, have a little chat with their buddies, and leave. And we would sit there like, we just lost an hour, and an hour is valuable to us.
Oh, you can do a lot in an hour when you're a small business owner. And I think people don't necessarily need to come into your business to work with you successfully. Think about all the video chat programs that are out there now where you can really have a face-to-face relationship with people. I don't have anything against breaking bread with clients or having a cup of coffee with them. I really enjoy that personally. I think sometimes when you're in a one-person business or a partnership, there's a danger of isolation. So I think it's good to just reconnect in person, but it doesn't have to be in a storefront unless you're running a store or unless you're running a restaurant. And so I think that's very freeing for people. And it does free you from the responsibilities of being a building owner, like talking to the guy or gal who does your landscaping about what bushes you want to put in and that sort of thing, which can be very time-consuming and distracting, or, dealing with the HVAC system or whatever it may be. Those things are a distraction when you're running a very lean business.
I think this is going to, it's a revolutionary movement happening, but I think it's going to change systems that are there. It's like going from dirty coal to clean energy. Just saying.
That's a good analogy.
Well, I think that it is. It's like we're looking at, okay, how much, do you need to drive everywhere? How much commuting people do. That is, talk about wasted hours and irritation with that, and the pollution of it. I'm just saying, there's these things, these old school ways of working versus, hey, you could, I have clients that have taken their walk-in closet and made it into an office. And people that I know that are one person businesses, they don't care that they're working off their kitchen table. They're pretty proud about it, actually. Like once they've this is what I'm going to do, and they've made that commitment to what they're going to do, there's this like charge like a rhino forward mentality. But I think it's going to change things and hopefully help in some of the places where we almost get penalized. And it's like in health insurance, insurance even for now with even there's insurance issues on where we used to be able to write things off for working from home. Now they're kind of looking at it differently. So I think in a way that the more of us out there, the better programs we can have, or it opens the door to other one-person businesses to create a new program.
I think you're right. They're great. They're very symbiotic. And, I'm supported by one-person businesses. I support other ones. And I think there is a real community. And we haven't been noticed before. But I think we're starting to be noticed because of the critical mass. We're seeing predictions of more than 40% of the workforce doing some type of contingent work now from various sources. And there's going to come a point where there are so many people doing contingent work that it will be impossible to ignore us. And then some of the big pain points out there, like you mentioned healthcare. I have bought healthcare in New Jersey, and I don't know what the prices are in every single state, but I know we have paid as much as our mortgage just for the premiums.
Yep.
It shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be.
Shouldn't.
And that's not even including out of pocket, because it prevents people who would otherwise be in business from thriving and running their businesses. It's too big a benchmark for a lot of people to bear the first year in business. And even, with the Affordable Care Act, I think that did give people some security in terms of knowing that they could get some insurance. A lot of people wound up buying high deductible plans where they really couldn't afford to get any of the care, even though they had coverage in case of a catastrophe. They just for the day-to-day care, to pay the out-of-pocket to a doctor was too much for them. And I've interviewed a number of people in that situation, people who were even 50 years old and older, who had some chronic health conditions and weren't getting treated. And that it shouldn't be that way. But I think because of the invisibility of the whole freelance economy to politicians, it's been ignored somewhat. But I think eventually there's just going to be enough of us that it will be impossible to ignore people, and we'll be treated as equal members of society. I don't mean to sound like I have a chip on my shoulder.
I think you're really right
when
there,
you think
because
about it, think about what you pay in taxes, right?
I know.
People in small businesses often pay very high taxes. So why, for instance, should somebody who pays into the system, but their contract job that pays most of their income dries up, why don't they get unemployment, but their neighbor next door in a W-2 job who works the same number of hours does? I mean, it just seems like there's an inequality there, and as more people are in that situation of being a contractor, either by choice or because that's the direction employers are going, then that's going to have to be fixed, because you're going to have too many people who are vulnerable to complete economic instability. And I mean, we have to create our own stability, which leads me to why I wrote the book. I didn't see any of these things being addressed. And I've been in business 10 years myself. My husband and I have 4 children. And for most of the 10 years, we were both freelancers in New Jersey, which is a very high-cost state. And I realized we have to build our own safety net. And it has to be a safety net that covers insurance. It has to be a safety net that covers the possibility that some of our clients might not pay us on time, and we need a certain cash flow to maintain a household. It has to cover the fact that work can dry up suddenly, and you can work above capacity to give yourself insurance, but there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can't work 100 hours a week to give yourself that insurance. So how do you build it? You have to earn more. And so in this book, I looked at how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that you're right there. I think that the more that artificial intelligence takes over and robots take over more jobs, I think you're going to see more and more people end up running their own businesses just out of what else are they going to do, you know? And when that starts shifting more and more in the future, I think you'll have a bigger base of entrepreneurs that are going to be saying to the government, hey, wait a minute. When we lived in, again, this small mountain town, there was a lot of wildfires for a period of time, and a lot of people lost their homes, and they were our clients, and we all lost income, and it was really interesting that the store owner could go and get money from the government, but we couldn't. We weren't even considered a business. There was this across the board, well, where's your storefront? So if you didn't have a restaurant, hotel, or a storefront, you were automatically not a business. And, oh, man, that made us angry. And it was really interesting how that worked. You weren't even part of a group. You were just nothing. You know, and I think that will change because as, like, the more automated society gets, what are people going to end up doing for work?
The only way to move forward in life, I believe, is to have your own responsibility. Like to really, that is your safety net. You cannot rely on anybody else but yourself, and you have more creative control. And in your book, you talk about the individuals that do this. There's like a different wiring system going on.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you're right. It actually, what I found refreshing was, these were everyday people. There were some people that had prestigious business degrees, and there were some people that were completely self-taught. They didn't have any special credentials, but they learned to look at their business differently, and that was what gave them some economic security. So some of the things that they did, we were talking about automation. They are very good students of automation, so they would look at how they could free up time for the high-value activities of their business, like forming a marketing strategy or going out and meeting with their biggest clients or coming up with a new product in their R&D, instead of sitting there and manually entering things into their QuickBooks themselves. So they would automate things, and I know you guys do too, things like scheduling apps so that you can share your public schedule with your clients or other people you make appointments with, and they just go to a link and pick a time that works for them instead of emailing back and forth. I know just in my own business, I save 2 to 3 hours a week, every week of the year, using my scheduling app. I use Schedule One. Some people use Calendly. There are a number of items like that. There are apps to track your mileage. When you think about it, how many times do you go in the car and you're supposed to write down your auto mileage so that you can deduct that on your taxes, but you forget to do it, and then you don't get the deduction, or you do it, but it interrupts your train of thought. You're sitting there writing it in a notebook, then you have to enter it, and it's a waste of time. I finally added something called Everlance to my phone, and it just automatically tracks it, and then I just swipe one way if it was a personal trip, the other way if it was a business trip. It even tracks charity trips or medical trips, so if you're doing other deductions, that saves me time. There are so many apps out there like that. And sometimes you have to pay a little bit for them. Maybe I might spend about $400 or $500 a year all told on all the different ones that I use. But when you think about what your time is worth as the CEO of your own business, even if it's a small business, you're still the CEO.
Exactly.
You can really do a lot with the time that you get back. And what I suggest to every one-person business or partnership is that if every person in the business sets a goal of freeing up 7 hours a week by finding enough apps to free that up, like think about the little time wasters that you hate doing. Try to find an app for all of them. It's not that hard to find 7 hours worth of time savings. And that's time that you could relax and get some distance on the business. You could spend it on working on your evolving business plan. You could be experimenting with new types of marketing that might be valuable. You could be getting financial advice from your accountant on how to run the business better and be more profitable. There's so many better things you can do with your time. So that's the first thing is automation, because that doesn't involve the commitment of hiring people. which takes a certain amount of cash flow beyond, you know, the $400 or $500. It might even be less for some people because they can use free apps and it really costs nothing except their time in setting it up. But the next step would be looking at contractors. So we probably all have certain things that it's best that we don't do ourselves. For me, bookkeeping is one of them, and everybody has their thing that they don't like to do. They don't have the patience for it. It bores them, or they're not good at it, whatever it is. So think about what's the one thing you would like to offload that someone else can probably do better than you. And it's hard for entrepreneurs to think that way because we all are do-it-yourselfers, especially in a small and scrappy business. It's like, oh, gosh, that's an extra expense. How do I pay a bookkeeper? But you really don't need one for that many hours a year if you're running a very small business. But to have your books accurate at all times, to know what your financial position is at all times, that's putting you far ahead of where you may be if you're not good at doing it and you put it off. So that can be very valuable. If you just pick one thing this year that you're going to outsource, or maybe you get a virtual assistant for 2 hours a week just to do the menial and tedious things in your business that you don't want to do. There are very specialized virtual assistants. So there can even be, if you have an e-commerce store, there are virtual assistants who specialize in maintaining shopping carts. You know, on the e-commerce, if you ask around in your field, you'd be surprised at how many there actually are. There are virtual assistants who handle marketing-related tasks like maintaining your Facebook advertising. So I would say look for one thing like that, or maybe more than one. If the business is starting to really pick up steam, you can look for more than one. And then finally, outsourcing. I found that a number of the entrepreneurs in the book were outsourcing sometimes to specialized services that do back office support for their industry. So one guy who has a $3.5 to $4 million revenue business that he runs from his garage is Harry Ein. And what he sells is swag. So when some company gives you a tote bag with their name on it, or a mug or a pen, that's what he sells to corporate clients and others. And what helped him was there is a company called I Promote You that does back office for his type of business, because there are actually quite a few swag sellers. You know, if you're not in these industries, it's like, wow, there's even a back office company. And another person in the book who used that approach was Chris Cadigan, who's out on Long Island, and he runs a Unishippers franchise, right? And you think, okay, a franchise, you're not allowed to do things exactly how you want. Well, guess what? He outsourced his back office to a specialized company in that field, and it saved him a lot of time and enabled him to break $1 million in a one-person franchise. And then he liked the company so much that he actually became a partner in it and now provides services to other franchisees doing the same type of thing in addition to his franchise. So I would ask around in your industry. The other area is e-commerce. In e-commerce, a lot of people use Fulfilled by Amazon rather than having the expense and headache of running a warehouse and packing up the orders.
Yeah.
Why should you do it? They're so good at it, right? Like Amazon has this down to a science. They're going to be better than you. Yeah, it's like what?
And it's a trusted source.
I know, they're so fast. And if people have a choice of buy through Amazon or buy through someone I never heard of, guess who wins?
Yeah, I mean, we put Amazon, you know, like when, you know, we put your interview in our magazine, it's going to link to Amazon because people are going to go there and do it because that is, they are so good at marketing. You know, we have a client, Spontaneous, that's a song game, and we've done a number of interviews with this song game. Yeah, it's a board game. It became an Amazon bestseller. I mean, he beat out Monopoly and all of these huge games over the years. And he started off, you know, I mean, a young guy going out and I'm going to do this game. And he took out a loan for $250,000, you know, seriously.
Well, that's bold.
I know. He did some really bold things, went through a medical issue where he had a tumor on his brain. I mean, everything. And I mean, it's like a tough story of like really going for his dream. Yeah. And eventually, I mean, at one point, because, you know, financially he needed to pay his loan, he was based in Austin. He got on a pedicab and started, you know, cycling people around Austin, you know, for money. And of course, he put Spontaneous on the side. And I can talk about him because we've done a lot of in-depth interviews about how he's done this. And eventually he just, he had a pop-up shops in malls. He did all this stuff, and he realized he was just, selling one by one by one. And he turned around and let Amazon handle all of it. And he says you still have to, nag Amazon.
Market.
There's still some issues there, but he doesn't have to send him out personally. And he's worked it for 8 years. Now he is number one.
Yep.
And it's just from allowing Amazon. And I think that is I think it's easier if you're going into business now versus even when Nancy, you and I started the magazine in this country, even in the past when you were in South Africa with a magazine, it's you as a business owner sometimes become very hands-on, and
you have to.
That is a huge lesson of letting go and having all these tools. You have to switch old school thought patterns off to let these automated tools happen. I've noticed reading your book helped me make some decisions on automation. Some things we've automated, some things, we've worked with people, contracted out, but there were certain things I was like, no. And then I was like, well, these people are making a lot of money. Let's try it, and it works.
It does work. Yeah, you're so right, Lisa. I think I think there's a hesitance sometimes when you feel like you have to pay for these services. You think, I could really do it myself, and my profits will be a little bit higher. But there's a cost to trying to do all that, in that you wear yourself down, and you're not putting your business creativity towards things that will really help you grow not only revenues but profits. And I think it's you have to let go a little bit, and sometimes things don't work out. I have outsourced things to people that didn't deliver, and it's disappointing and it's frustrating and stressful, but you have to say, you know what, that can happen in life. Things don't always work out exactly as planned. So what you do is cut your losses early. When you start feeling like something isn't working out, then pull the plug early. That's what I've learned. Don't let it drag on and on for months. Just realize the person didn't deliver. Okay, they're human. They're fallible. You don't know all the things that are going on. But move on and try it again, because a lot of things can successfully be outsourced or done in an automated way. I think, though, there is an evolution for people. One of the entrepreneurs in the book, Matt Friel, he lives in Novi, Michigan. He is a video game lover, and he started at a very young age. You know how parents don't want their kids to play video games. This will make you think differently about this. But he came up with an idea where he would buy up the remainder games at different big box stores when they sort of went out of date, and he would sell them online. And he wound up, he had to have his own warehouse, et cetera, and he wound up realizing he was spending the whole day in the car going and buying up these games as the business grew. And instead of running it inefficiently forever, he said, you know what, now is the time to make a change. And so he started finding game distributors he could get them from. And that required him to change his business model. But the business has continued to grow very quickly because he was willing to course correct. He realized, I don't want to spend 12 hours a day in my car. This just is not productive. Yeah. And he now in 2016 he was at $3.6 million in annual revenue in a one-person business, which is awesome, right? It's inspiring. And don't forget, everybody has expenses too. So when, just for the benefit of people that might be in a corporation and aren't running a business, I feel I should say this. When you're running $1 million business, you're not taking home $1 million the way you would. It's not like your salary. Taxes are taken out. Depending on what your expenses are, you could be in the highest tax bracket. And if you have inventory, your expenses might be pretty substantial. So I would say a lot of the businesses are bringing in profits in the area of $200,000 to $400,000. But that's still well above what the median U.S. income is. It gives you that security that we were talking about in the beginning, to protect yourself from all of these things that freelancers are not protected from, and to reinvest in the business and do fun things and try the new things that you were talking about. If you have no cushion, you can't even do R&D and invent new things or try a new product line or service. It's too hard.
I agree, and I think the thing too is, if you're bringing around $200,000 in, you're also looking at the fact that you're in control of your life, complete, as much as you can be in the law of the world. barring Murphy's Law that it likes to poke its head around. But I always find those things that, if something goes wrong, it leads to learning something. There's always a lesson in it. We call it school fees.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a financial loss, or it's, something we really thought something was going to work, and then the world said no, but you learn from it. So it's part of the package, but it's something you have the ability to change and rectify and move forward with if you open up to the lesson. And sometimes the lesson comes years later, so that's okay too. But the other thing is you're doing something you like, and one thing I noticed about all the interviewees that you had inside the book, all the entrepreneurs, is they found what their passion was that they were interested in, even if it was, how to be effective with your time management, the 4-hour workday, that kind of thing. So that there were things that people may not have thought that they were really interested in as a kid, going, hey, I want to be a solopreneur, and I'm going to sell, time management products. You don't think that, but throughout life you'll start to find either a hole in some kind of product or service that isn't, something that's not working well that you see fit to fix and be the solution to, or there's something you're really passionate about. And I think that's what keeps the entrepreneur system flowing, is that passion.
It's so interesting because one of the most interesting conversations I had for the book was with David Fairley, a business broker, and he was just making me laugh by telling me about all the different types of internet stores there are, and how these little niche businesses could be quite lucrative, and not only in terms of the revenue, but something that could be resold later. So there were businesses selling things like, this was the list that he gave me, origami material. That's not so odd. Lots of people like origami, but gumballs, sleep masks, muck boots, fairy figurines, decorative mailbox flags, pepper spray, and fireplace screens. The gumball business, actually, when it sold in the 7 figures. The same with the sleep mask.
Oh my God! So don't knock anything until you try it.
Exactly. Well, you know what? That's what's so great about the internet, because maybe, like you were saying, you were living in a small mountain town. Maybe in the small mountain town there isn't a community of people who are obsessed with gumballs, right? But around the world, there probably are one
I'd
or
say
two
you're getting
town,
pretty
right?
close there.
Yeah, maybe. So it's like you have this incredible global reach, and if you can figure out the international shipping and things like that, sometimes though it's a community, right? Some of these businesses were selling informational products, so they might have webinars, they might have an ebook that they created. They might have all kinds of informational products that they sell, and there might be people all over the world that are interested in it. And so if you apply imagination to it, you can probably find some interesting markets for whatever your unique passion is. The other thing is you might not need that many people. So one of the things I found was with professional services firms, it's very hard to get to $1 million trading your hours for dollars, like that hourly worker mindset does not work, because it's hard to charge enough per hour. But if you're really, really good at something and you're one of the only people that can do it, you can. Actually, you could charge a very high hourly rate or a very high day rate. So I just did an interview with Steve King at Emergent Research, and he said that he studies the freelance economy, by the way. He said that what he's seeing is very high-level programmers that serve the Wall Street banks can charge very high hourly rates. So maybe you can charge $1,000 an hour if you're a genius at what you do.
Lawyers can.
They can. You're right. And so if you are specialized, you put in the time. It doesn't mean you have to have gone to grad school even. You might just be really good at something. You may be able to do that. Or I've seen consultants who quantify the results they get for their clients. And it's a very good selling point that, I've helped my clients grow their revenues by X amount. And so that's why I charge $25,000 for a day of my time. And if that $25,000 relative to the millions of dollars they added in revenue or profits is a drop in the bucket, it might be a bargain to them. So I would encourage people to really, if you truly excel in what you do, think about creative pricing models, because that's another way where you're not working crazy hours but you're getting paid based on the value that you provide. Because some people really provide a lot of value, and it's not that hard to quantify.
Right on, right on. We're at that time. We have to play Happy Hour. You ready? It's time. Okay, Elaine, if you could spend happy hour with one person, who would it be? Where are you going to spend happy hour? What are you going to drink, and what are you going to talk about?
Wow. Well, I love literature. That's my escape from work. And I would love to sit down at happy hour with Amos Oz, the author of The Black Box and a number of other novels that I've really enjoyed. I just love the way his mind works. He's a genius at writing and at fiction writing and nonfiction. And I would just love to ask him about the thinking behind his books and what his next work will be. That would be a lot of fun. I have never been to Paris, so I would have to pick a cafe in Paris.
Cool.
And if I was in Paris, I think maybe a glass of red wine. There you
nice.
go.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Elaine, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. Great information for everybody looking at starting, or if you're in a business now, it's just that change your mindset thing that I think is so interesting, and how to have that lean business, and just that, using the lean business model and creativity as just two main lessons that I learned from your book. Everyone, again, it's by Elaine Pofelt, and it is The $1 Million One-Person Business. Make great money, work the way you like, have the life you want. Of course, it's on Amazon, because Amazon is the book place, amongst other things. But go to her website, because you'll see some of the entrepreneurs featured in the book on her website, and she's got a nice video on there. And, go on the website. It's themilliondollaronepersonbusiness.com. Thank you so much, Elaine. It's been truly a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Lisa and Nancy. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed the wonderful questions that you asked. It was so much fun.
Well, thank you for a fantastic book. Everyone needs to go get it. We call these books Bibles.
Reality
it's got
check.
nothing to do with religion, but it's when something has everything you need in it, it's that book. So everyone, go get it. So thank you so much, Elaine.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
What a good conversation.
And a good book.
A good book, and she wants to go to Paris too. I mean, it's like we're going to France.
Oui, oui.
All right, Pepe.
Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le Pew. Oh my gosh, here we go. I want to thank our guests for joining us, Bill Eddy, and also John Durant, the guitarist, and Elaine Pofelt. And thank you, listeners, definitely for joining us. That's what we do it for. We will be back on Friday. We have such a fabulous Friday show.
Cool.
No, it's cool.
What is it?
We're going wild.
Oh, good.
We're getting into literature, like our last two guests would have loved, and we're going into the movies.
All righty.
Okay, so we're starting off. It's our Food, Wine, and Travel show this Friday, February 9th. Starts at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to hear all about the Galapagos Islands.
All right.
Travel, food, and wine writer and photographer, incredible photographer and writer, Melanie Votal is joining us to talk about her wildlife and birding adventures in Galapagos. And then we're going to historic Oxford, Mississippi with travel writer Debbie Stone. She's going to talk about, the history of this area. It's right outside Memphis. It's only an hour from it. You and I are going there on our way to Bourbon Country, Nancy.
Cool.
Small town charm, a lot of creatives in there. And it's known as the cultural mecca of the South.
Wow.
Yep. So that's another place. And then, speaking of the South, we're going to Louisiana, to Natchitoches, and we're going to hear about the 30th anniversary of the filming of Steel Magnolias. Katherine Johnson from the Natchitoches Area Convention and Visitor Bureau. I had a conversation with her that I recorded with Kelly Jackson, who is the founder of the Cane River Film Festival that's happening in March. They talk about the area's movie-making history. I mean, it rolls deep.
Yeah.
And Kelly Jackson found out, she was tracing her family history, found that her history is tied to the Melrose Plantation.
That's exciting.
Therese Coyne. I mean, it's such a fascinating history. Everyone, Melrose Plantation, and just how this woman and her kids, how she was freed as a slave, then ran the plantation and got to own it, and then it became like a writer's and a creative outlet for all
beautiful.
This is such a cool story. But anyway, so she found out she was related and just moved there. And then she's like, well, now we have to have a film festival because she's a filmmaker. So there you go.
Makes sense to me.
I know. And then, of course, we're going to re-air Steve Schneiker's Hollywood History on Northwest Louisiana and Central Louisiana. So Blaze is in there, and the Steel Magnolias, and
Blaze
other good
was
stuff.
a naughty girl.
Yes, she was when she was hanging out with politicians, and we all know what they do.
Yeah.
Just saying. All right, so everybody, again, that's Friday, our Food, Wine, and Travel Show, Friday, February 9th, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can keep up with all things Big Blend Radio. Just go to bigblendradio.com. We're on Facebook under Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine, and Twitter at Big Blend Mag. And if you go to nationalparktraveling.com and you're into travel and parks, go there. You'll see our Parks and Travel magazine and connect to all our new social media for that side, because it's cool.
Yes.
It's all cool. Okay, so we got to close with some music.
Of course.
Okay. I thought, given all our topics today, that the song Just Breathe In sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. This is from Jeff Kozak. Mm-hmm. We love Jeff. Mm-hmm. And it's off of his latest album, Less is the New Black. See, it goes with everything, right? Meditation, good music, simplify, and no high conflict. So Just Breathe In. Jeff Kozak and the Other Hand Band, and you can go to jeffkozak.com to learn more. So here it is, Just Breathe In. Thanks, everybody, and see ya on Friday.
Ain't got no sacred revelation. Have trouble finding words I need to say. A sudden lack of inspiration has cast a cloud across my day. Thoughts I'm thinking bring no stillness as I try to write my life into a song. I should just breathe in. I should open up my mind until I'm ready to begin again. I should just breathe in. Oh, oh, oh. I should just breathe in. I got to turn off all those voices, 'cause they don't always deal in fact, and release the peace, inner laughter. If I'm ever gonna learn how to relax, I hope I can figure out the question. Whoa, before gone. I should just breathe in. I should open up my mind until I'm ready to begin again. I should just breathe in. Whoa. I should just breathe in and forget the world outside and listen to the voice within. I should just breathe in. Whoa, oh, oh. Just breathe in. Breathe in one time. should just breathe in. I should open up my mind until I'm ready to begin again. I should just breathe in, whoa.
I should just breathe in and forget the world outside and listen to the voice within.
I should just breathe in. I should just breathe in
and forget the world outside and listen to the voice within.
I should just breathe in. Whoa, oh, oh. I should just breathe in
and listen to the voice within.
Yeah. I should just breathe in.